This here, so you can see.
Okay, I'd like to call the regular meeting of Cobre Board of Education into session. It is 5:03. Please let the minutes show that Mr. Guadiana and Mr. Holguin are not on. Please stand for the pledge.
I am on.
Oh, okay, Gabe. All right, Mr. Holguin is not on. I mean, Mr. Guadiana is not on.
Mr. Guadiana just joined.
Okay. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico and the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Entertain a motion for approval of agenda items.
So moved.
Who made the motion?
I did. So moved. Gomez.
Mr. Cordova made the motion. Second?
I second
Second,
it.
Gomez.
This is Gabe.
Okay. Second by Mr. Gomez. Any corrections to the agenda? Any corrections to the agenda? Call for the vote. All those in favor? We're going to have to do a roll call vote to know who voted. Mr. Holguin?
Yes.
Mr. Guadiana? Okay,
Your
this is not
recording
on.
has reached the maximum length. To replay your message, press 1. To delete and re-record your
Yourself,
message,
yes.
press 3. For
Mr.
delivery
Gomez?
options, press 4. To send a
Yes,
fax,
for me.
press 6.
Yes.
To cancel this message,
Mr. Cordova?
press
Yes.
Motion carries. Entertain a motion for approval of the minutes of March 9th.
Gomez. So moved.
Motion by Mr. Gomez, second.
Cordova, second.
Second by Mr. Cordova. Any corrections to the minutes of March 9th? Call for the vote. Oh, well, again, roll call vote. Mr. Holguin?
Yes.
Mr. Guadiana? Say again?
Sorry, yes.
Myself, yes. Mr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Cordova?
Yes.
Motion carries. That moves us to item 2, which is update on unfinished business, which we have none. That moves us to item 3, public input. At this time, we'll entertain anything from the public in reference to our agenda.
I have something in term, well, if there's no other public input, but I do have something to talk about in terms of the budget item agenda.
Go ahead.
Okay. The board's responsibility of reviewing a budget includes having monthly budget meetings, for which we've had very few. And more recently, there's been no contact and no receipt of information, even though it was represented to the budget committee that it would be received, including the data as we got closer along. It doesn't have to be a finished budget for us to see it. Obviously, we're supposed to be there understanding some of the priorities of the budget and making sure that they meet the level of responsibility that we should be providing. In that, I requested salaries as they were going to be broken down in the budget by school, by administration and by teacher categories and actually individuals. That was never provided. And there's some items that have gone forward in this budget, which we have very little information of and don't even remotely come close to meeting our requirement on saying that this is what represents the best interest of the students and the parents and the employees. So just right up front, I want to state that the effort, and I want to thank Robert Pedraza, who has been the community member to that budget committee for his participation in this. Although I apologize to him because it was fruitless. It was completely fruitless. It was a complete disrespect to him and to the process in terms of the lack of information given and the reason that, because of the virus. Certainly there has been probably well over 100 meetings that teachers have conducted with students during this time period that have gone pretty flawlessly. I've been here involved with both of my children's meetings. It was an easy process. And then, as to my knowledge, email has never been shut down. The requested information could have easily been sent by email, but it was never received. And that almost is an overt action to undermine the committee's and the board's responsibility. And I want to express that up front, that this budget and I'll get into it more in detail as we go through the presentation, but clearly no board member has received information through the public meetings, I should say through the budget committee meetings or the public board meetings. If any information has been obtained, it's outside of the Open Meetings Act. And I find that disheartening that we would entertain a motion to approve a budget that we're just barely being shown minutes before that approval is doing. It is too in-depth. It is too comprehensive to get all the information and be able to raise relevant questions in a limited presentation that we're going to get coming up shortly. So I just want to make that very clear.
Okay. Any other public input? Moves us to administration. Administration. Can't hear you, Mr. Mendoza. You there, Mr. Mendoza?
Okay.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Okay.
Can you hear
Brings
me?
us to administration.
Yes.
Okay. Item A is approval of sixth grade students to be assigned to the Snell Middle School effective the school year 2020 to 2021 school year. The administration recommends that after much discussion and approval, discussion, questionnaires going home to parents, and the overall approval of students being moved to the sixth grade at Snell, the administration recommends that you approve this request that take place once we know when the school year is going to start. Everything's up in the up for grabs right now. We don't have a start date. And I'll talk more about that in the superintendent's report. So again, approval from the board to assign the sixth grade to Snell Middle School.
You heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
Is there time for discussion?
So move. Right, Cordova, so move.
After the motion, motion by Mr. Cordova, second.
Okay.
Who seconded?
Second. Second, this is Gabe.
Okay. Mr. Cordova made the motion. Holguin seconded. Again, roll call vote. Or is there any discussion on it?
Yes. Again, where are we in the preparations? We left this, the last meeting was in San Lorenzo. There was a lot of discussion, a lot of concerns that were raised in San Lorenzo. And I kind of want to know if that played into any of the decision to go forward. Did we consider a hybrid rollout of this where people that would be bused at a different length or choose to stay, would like to stay in the school that they're in, specifically San Lorenzo, be allowed to do that? Or was there any consideration of the input that was provided at that meeting?
Yes, there was, Mr. Guadiana. We, first of all, the concern was that the building was not ready. I again spoke with Pat Avalos this afternoon, and he says the rooms have been cleaned, the desks have been taken out, and they've been fixed and cleaned. And we have now in the process of ordering a new desk that needs to be replaced. And from what I understand, also the company is going to do the intercom system is right now waiting for approval from the state to go ahead and work that, because there are permits and stuff that have to be secured before they can go in and add any fire alarms or go with the intercom in there. So that shouldn't take. So we're expecting them any time this coming week. Okay, so that's there. And in the terms of leaving the sixth grade at San Lorenzo, I did not want to. I took that into consideration myself, and I think it's we do it now and we don't do it at all. We need to have all sixth grade to be housed once and for all at the middle school. And it's a situation that we need the classroom coming up in the other elementaries. And the busing can be adjusted. That's something that we will have to get together administratively here to discuss once we know we have your permission from the board and we are going to move the kids. That is, we'll be able to discuss that. Okay?
Okay, was there any further communication with those people that raised those concerns?
Okay, and then again, I heard your comments earlier that I'm using the excuse of COVID-19. Nobody's at that building at this point. And the only communication I've had is with Corey, Mr. Corey, about the situation. And he says that we just need to move forward and let's get it done. But we can adjust the dismissal time that they asked for 30 minutes earlier. Mr. Pat Avalos said he's open to listening.
Okay.
Go ahead, Pat.
I think, if I may, we have already built a schedule based on initial schedules already done. Our staffing is already done. We've already looked at our options of what we're going to be doing in the cafeteria, breakfast and lunch. We have already taken a look at arrival times for our students coming in, as far as segregating them in the mornings to make sure that they are staying within the framework of their, for example, 7, 8, and 6th graders. We already have taken a look at that. That's pretty much done. So, you know, we're making the preparations already. If we are going to be needing to make some changes to the arrival dates or arrival times of the students and members, you know, obviously we need to make those adjustments based into the schedule. But other than that, staffing patterns, we have already have gone as far as already set up a master schedule to where we know which teachers are going to be teaching what. With the arrival of the new teachers that will be transferring, they will be put into that rubric, that situation. You know, just pretty much we've worked. We're ready to go. We just need to start getting the physical plant as far as rooms. Custodians already back there getting that ready. By next week, they should be cleaned, ready to go. Awaiting furniture, awaiting technology, and we are currently working with some of the 6th grade teachers. Just doing a little bit of a question and answer on what the curriculum they were they were doing at each of their different schools to see if we can incorporate or we can modify, or if we are going to go ahead and just start a whole brand new curriculum direction here at the school. We're in the process of doing that right now. Basically, because of the situation with the COVID, I think we're a little bit already ahead in that respect as far as scheduling and what we need to do. And our teachers here, we're working already about talking about what we're going to be offering, electives, this and that. Master schedule's already done. So all we need to do is, if we do need to make that adjustment with the arrival time from the members, kids coming in, that's something we'll have to work into the schedule. But other than that, I mean, we have a very, very good start here, ready for through the summer and the arrival of our students hopefully in August at the time when the governor so approves.
So this isn't taking into consideration the summer program in case there's an opening for people to be able to attend school?
Mr. Guadiana, if I may answer that, Pat, superintendents this morning, the superintendents statewide have recommended to the PED that we don't know by the end of this month, which is this week, we'd rather just skip K5, K6, because there'd be too much requirements. They're talking about us having to test the kids as they come in, get their temperature. They're talking about having to wipe them down and have masks. Guarantee that we have the separation, the maximum, 6 feet, and to separate them at lunch, separate them at recess. We just figured it's too much right now and too quick. We need guidelines from the PED to really be able to start the school without having to do all that with the limited staff that we have. So yeah, to answer your question, at this point right now, and Jose, you can freak in if it's anything different, but it doesn't look like we're going to have K5. I'm sorry, it's called K6 now, and then the extended learning. And start date, instead, it's looking like it might be even into September as of this morning. So that's the latest I have for you.
So end of this month, one concern is, you said you'll find out by the end of this month if that's going to be allowed to reopen the school. But so if they allow it if they decide opening it by the end of this month, that we can start in late May, would we be prepared to do that, or is it just not likely that that's going to happen?
Well, to answer your questions, we have not even submitted plans and everything else for the program, and I don't think they've approved anything. So let me have Jose comment on that, because he deals with this.
So, Mr. President, members of the board, the district did submit both a K5 plus application, a K12 plus pilot application, and an extended learning time program application. Our plans have been submitted and they are still awaiting approval. The PD has not approved any applications as of today. And based on Mr. Mendoza's comment that hopefully by the end of the week, if we don't get approvals or we don't get any further information, the superintendents are recommending that those programs not be put in place for this school year.
So we did submit an application for starting before September. Well, when was the first application? When's the effective start date for the first application?
It's in July. So if they approve the K5 plus application, we would start the last week in June. If they approve the K12, which is one that we prefer, but we were advised to submit for both in case, because of the financial cutbacks, that may go away. So we have what we've done always, the K5 plus, the the K12 plus, that would only be funded beginning July. So that's why that one would start the first week of July. So, we're scheduled to start in either June if we go with the K5 plus, or July if we go with the K12 plus pilot. And both applications, we have embedded the extended learning time program, which would be an extended time, 10 days if it's a K5 route that we go, and it'll be 25 days if it's the extended learning time. I'm sorry, the K12 plus application.
So, Mr. Avalos, we're good for the latter part of June?
As far as facility, we're just, like I said, we're just waiting on technology. And usually when we have the extended learning time, we do move those kids around into different, because there's not as many. And what we do is we usually move them around to a different part of the building. That way they're a little bit more centralized, But as far as building wise, I think, looking at the summer, at the rate that we're going with everything coming in as it should, we should be good to go. Okay. And then also I'd like to add in there that, at some point, I know that a lot of parents have expressed to me a need for their students to come in and we would have, with the ending of the year, we would have normally had an opportunity for all the students and even parents to come in and do a orientation, a walkthrough, things of that nature. And obviously that's something that's still going to be a need based on whenever we get the clearance, we'll be able to put that in there. That way they can come in, ask questions, walk around, and just have get a little bit more of a understanding of how the school runs. Okay.
I appreciate the work that you're doing.
Thank you,
Everybody's
Mr. Allen.
that's good. I'm sorry. There's somebody else?
I was
Mr.
just saying,
President,
thank
members
you,
of the
Mr.
board.
Avalos.
You betcha. Thank you, sir.
This will say, Mr. President, members of the board, I just need to clarify that if we went with the K-12 plus and they approved that application, it would be 20 days as opposed to 25.
Okay. Thank you. Any other thing? Okay, go for a roll call vote. Mr. Holguin,
Yes.
Mr. Guadiana,
Yes.
myself, yes. Mr. Gomez, Mr. Gomez. I don't know if we lost him. Mr. Cordova,
Yes.
motion carries.
Gomez, yes.
That moves us to financial. Thank you, Frank.
Very good. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr.
It
Bell.
moves us to financial.
Okay, Mr. Sepulveda, before we move to that, did you pick up Mr. Gomez's vote? He voted yes.
Yes. Yes, I got it.
Okay. Okay, at this time, we're gonna go to the 2021 proposed operational budget summary. And I'll yield to Ms. Holguin. Ms. Holguin, are you online? Ms. Holguin?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Terry,
You want me to proceed?
if it's okay with Mr. Sepulveda, our president, yes.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Terry.
What I'll be doing at this point would be to share my screen so that you can see the budget summary and I can explain it as I'm presenting. First of all, just to preface, we have received many guidelines and many changes from the Public Education Department as not only COVID, but as the statutory changes based on House Bill 1 and Senate Bill 5 that were approved last year, where the budget is built around certain program set-asides. So that includes at-risk, that includes bilingual, that includes special ed, and so forth. So I want to address those first, but to begin with, I will present the projected revenue, and the summary was in your packets in case anybody wants to follow that way, but I can share my screen. Can everybody see the budget summary now?
It's pretty small font, Terry. Kind of hard to read, but I have
Okay.
my copy.
I'll try and enlarge it here first. Hold on, I think they're seeing it now. Can you see it now?
Yeah, that's better.
That's better? Okay, just to begin, this budget summary is the entire budget. It does include the budget. However, on the expenditure side, you see it's 13,409, 554.68. Those are the total expenditures budgeted. That matches up with the subtotal here. And the reason that we're not budgeting the 14 million is because the 696,917 is allotted to us and for extended learning time and K-5. Now, should those programs go through, those programs will be, those expenditures will be budgeted in additional compensation, transportation, and so forth. But at this point, we don't want to focus on those specific line items because we don't want to have those included in the operations of the entire year. So in scrolling up for projected revenue, we're going to work with the $13,409,554. Now, the way the PED instructed is that certain programs have to be funded according to the funding that they generate. So let's start from the bottom and let's work with at-risk. So at-risk is generating $946,457. So if you look across to the way we're funding, in personnel, we're funding in instruction $565,000 and $95. And then the other at-risk is found in the support staff, which is student support, which is counselors and so forth, and that is your $381,000 in at-risk. And then we also go to, so 565 and 300. So those are your at-risk totals. So it's all personnel. Right, so then we go to the elementary fine arts, and the elementary fine arts, same thing. We're looking at elementary arts personnel costs. We're also looking at supplies, which is $3,500, and then we're budgeting under contract services, $21,000 for elementary arts. That's so we can continue to also run the theater program. So then we continue to the bilingual, same thing. We have bilingual salaries, and then we have bilingual supplies, and those are include the Descubre, which is the elementary material, and also the assessments. The special ed is allotted also to personnel. You've got 1.1 in teachers and aides, and then you have 1.2 in your ancillary staff. Then we go to, I'm sorry, I hope I'm not making people dizzy by scrolling up and down. It's just that my screen doesn't cover it all. And then once we have the set-asides, then we can attribute whatever is left in for regular education, and we go to the rest of our funding, which is personnel in instruction, which is teachers and instructional assistants. You have your regular ed in your support staff, which is the high school and the middle school counselor. And you have your instructional support personnel. That includes your libraries, and it also includes your technology. Supplies and materials for the libraries, which would be the library books. And then they've also got additional funding. Now none of this budget includes like grant funds or any funds from any other sources. It is strictly the operations budget. So that you might find that there's some, like here, where $10,000 isn't enough for libraries, but they've also got their Go Bond Libraries allocation from the state. So we try to split fund where we can to make sure that everything is covered under administrative personnel. Excuse me. Sorry. Administrative personnel, and then personnel under administration for special ed would be your director's office. And then you've got your administrative expenses, which include auditing, legal, advertising, and training for admin staff, and that would be $67,000. And then your board expenses, which is your board, travel, training, and supplies. And this was brought down to what is actually expended rather than what seemed to have been a little bit higher budgets before. Under your administration under schools, that would be your principals and your secretaries. And then your personnel for bilingual, some of your principals are split funded between bilingual funding and also regular ed funding. And your supplies and materials for your just your office at the school level. You have your finance area, which would be 398 in personnel, and then accounting systems. We found that we are gonna need to upgrade our accounting system as this trial run of working at home. Not everybody can. Our server for the accounting system is hitting its end of life. We have your maintenance and operations, your personnel, and then your utilities and insurance. 300,000 of this $1 million is out of your property liability insurance. So when you take those are by function. So you have your instruction, your student support, your instructional support, and so forth, down to your maintenance. And then within the functions, you have your personnel costs. And then I've gone ahead and, because personnel costs are such a big piece of the budget, to allow for you to see how much personnel costs in each function. So 48% of the budget is under instruction for personnel. Student support is 14%, your ancillary. Your instructional support is 4%. Your administration is 3.9%. Your school administration, which is your principal, 7.24%. Your finance is 2.97%, and your maintenance costs are 6.57%, for a total of 88% of your total operating budget is personnel. So 11,200,000 out of the 13 million are personnel costs. Now, what we did with this is we built this as a summary, as roll-ups. Underneath here, you would have your specific job classes and so forth. Now, because there's some issues at the program level, at the PED, with their operating budget management system, which is OBMS for short for us, we have to then turn around once we've met and decided personnel-wise how we're going to use our personnel. Then we have to put it into the worksheets that PED provides and determine that way. So there's another level this year that wasn't there before, which is your program costs. So you now have to take and enter based on the program. So let's say regular ed has a 1010 program code, special ed has a 2000 program code, bilingual has a 4010 program code, elementary arts has a 1020 program code, and at risk has a 4025. Now 4025 is a brand new program code. So when you go to assign your personnel to your program code, the system is not allowing us to tie the two together because the program is new this year. So we're working through that. This is the end of last week and the beginning of today, that we found that when you try to upload your budget and put it in their system, it's not going through because of that program cost. So we just wanna, I just wanted to tell you that, because that's pretty much the reason for a summary rather than having all the OBMS lines presented. The other reason would be that it would be like 40 pages of me scrolling through this here, and it would be probably rather difficult in a virtual setting that's done for the first time with this type of meeting. So that being said, where we have a budget due date of April 29th, we have to submit it by midnight tomorrow in order for it to be there for them on April 29th. So this budget, we continue to work through the program issues and so forth, and try to get that done. In order to come up with the personnel costs, we've been meeting as a team, And those are decisions, that are made by the superintendent as to whether or not, we're going to be able to tie a position or we're going to have to eliminate a position. Now, this budget reflects a loss of 37 kids from last year to this year. So 37 kids times $4,700 is a pretty decent hit. So when you look at that and you look at your class sizes, you're going to see that in some instances we're overstaffed. So we had to review those items as well. So in doing that, we were able to tie our personnel along, with, and try to make it work so that we didn't have to necessarily cut any positions. But I'll let Mr. Mendoza address, personnel issues, as that those are, something that he has to address. In another of the new requirements is that an education plan has to be tied to the budget, which means that on the program side, there is a requirement of a narrative for each of the special program areas. Now, so Melissa in special ed had to review and see, how this $2,400,000 would be allotted to those, those personnel costs and so on. And then same with bilingual with Dr. Carrillo and Mrs. Varela, and so on. So we've spent some time on the educational side of the plan. The at-risk was probably the most tedious, because it also required that, like I said, again, you tie the program code to the line item to, to the job class and so on. So we've, this is what we've been able to accomplish in that time frame, and all trying to, work from here and home and make sure that we keep the number of staff size to a minimum to allow for the governor's public health order. So with that, I will minimize this and I will entertain questions. I think, Victor, I think that we can go ahead and unmute, and I will entertain questions at this point.
Okay, can you hear me, Terry?
Yes.
Okay. One of the things we discussed in the board meeting, I believe it was in December, maybe January, was the board expenditures that are being made for travel, for conferences, and different other trainings. And that's, according to the budget that you have now, it isn't. Can you give us a more concise number than the 60, what is it?
It's 25,000.
25,000?
That's what we're bringing the budget down to. This next year it'll be 25,000. So
all inclusive?
All inclusive.
When will we get that detail?
The detail of that will be available once I get the OBMS budget submitted. PED has said, yes, we got your budget, we're on time, and we're gonna review your budget. Then we can bring those line items, line by line back into our reporting system and get a report from that. So it'll probably be the end of the week.
So the data that you're submitting to them is available now? I understand you have some problem transmitting that and fitting it into their system, but your data is available in terms of what you want to put in their system?
The data, yes, it's in raw form, and it's in the multiple spreadsheets, because I have a spreadsheet for at-risk, I have a spreadsheet for regular ed, I have a spreadsheet for special ed, so they're in multiple areas where I have to bring the data back into their system. So that's what I'm working on now.
And that can be made available to us?
That can be made available as soon as I meet my deadline to PED, which is Wednesday morning.
Okay, and the line items.
Because it's not done.
Okay, so, but the line items that I remember anyway, that related to board were 3 specific ones. One was board members, another one was board travel, and another one was board training.
Correct.
And so cumulatively, those 3 line items will be 25,000.
Will be brought down to 25,000.
I appreciate that. Also, I got a question regarding administrative associates. How many staff are in it? Previously, we have one line item for the superintendent, another line item for administrative associates. And so administrative associates would be who?
Mr. Mendoza?
This is personnel, and that's something that he can get with Mr. Mendoza on.
I'm sorry?
This is personnel, and this is something that you can get with Mr. Mendoza on.
This is budget.
Because he's the one that.
This is.
Yeah, but he's the one that can tell you which personnel is who.
Okay, then he can tell me that.
And where are they at?
Okay, so.
And that's where you can get with Mr. Mendoza on.
So the question then goes to him.
Yeah, that's why I say you can meet with Mr. Mendoza and he can explain to you what that is.
This is related to the budget, and this is information I would like to get before I vote on the budget. Because one of the things that when I ran for the board, I was apprehensive about the level of staffing from the administration point of view, considering the history of the positions in there being less than what they were. And now apparently there's 2 more positions, making that a total of 4 administrative associates as opposed to 2. And the public should know. And this is a discussion that we should have in our responsibility of making sure that the priorities meet the student's need. And if he has a justification for it, that's fine. But
let me tell you, those people that you're calling administrative assistants, that's just a title. It's like administrative assistant and Mr. Carrillo is, the administrative assistant and Mr. Peru is, Maureen, all of those are called administrative assistants. But it's a title. It's not a thing that they are Mr. Mendoza's assistants.
Were there any positions added recently then, I should say? And because the budget in 2018-19 was 314,000 plus, and now it's 434,000 plus, closer to 435. So that's a question I have related to budget.
So on the increase between 18 and 19, remember there was a 6% level and a level up for administrators. Now, not necessarily on the district administration, but if you add 6% to the total on the 18-19, I don't have that exact figure, but is that what you're asking?
No, more importantly, were there an increase of the number of people that fit in that line item now?
No.
So the and this is just from that year. I don't have the number for this year. So the increase of basically 30% is reflective of a 6% increase, not a personnel increase, a position increase?
Not to my knowledge, but I mean, I would have to look at the actual numbers, but Mr. Mendoza, there haven't been any new positions put into place in administration, right? That they're the same people that were here from 1819?
Well, Mr. Guardiana, to answer your question, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The grants that we've been receiving have required people to maintain and collect data. And that would be the only place we've added administrative assistants. But those people are covered under the grant money and not our regular SEG. So if we were to look at that, and you're going to see some of that at the next board meeting when Mr. Carrillo presents his applications for approval, you'll see where we're talking about on that increase. But I will be able to get with Terry more tomorrow as we're finalizing everything that goes on the OBMS. And I don't think it's as high as you mentioned, but I'm not doubting it, but I'll look into it.
You know what I think what I need to clarify is that those totals that you're seeing on those spreadsheets includes salaries and benefits. So it is not necessarily just the base salary that's in that total. So that might be where you might be seeing a little bit of a too much of an increase. So I think that might be if we break it down by salary and benefits, because I mean, if we've had significant benefit increases over the last couple of years, you know, in fact, this particular year has an 8% increase in the insurance cost, the basic premium that the district has to pay for insurance costs on behalf of the staff.
Terry, if I may interrupt you, I'm sorry, but this morning at the superintendent's meeting,
yes,
8.7. 8.7. Yeah, they increased it to 8.7.
So
this is Palms and Associates with our insurance.
Gosh.
So we're asking for a relief when there's going to be a special session this summer when the governor calls it, and I'm going to talk about that in the superintendent's report. But it's getting worse, board members, what we're having to dish out for the district's portion of the insurance for the employees. So we'll see how we do. That's a big chunk right there, 8.7 increase. And of course, on some employees, we're 60-40, some employees 70-30, and so forth, depending on their salary. So yes, Terry, we've got our work cut off to do that. Okay? That's tomorrow before.
Along those lines, what I'm striving for is to have Mr. Mendoza be the bigger part of this conversation, saying programmatically we have identified these deficits or surpluses and allocate them accordingly. See where we can be spending the money to meet the students and or the staff need. One of the concerns that I've been that I walked into the school board meeting, into the position, was that people down at the lower ranks are really getting very sub-level pay. And right now they're doing some of the most hazardous work that staff are expected to do in the school district. And as a school board member representing the community, I want to bring their concerns up front and make sure that the salary schedules reflect what the board would like, if the board is at all interested in salary equity or reflective of appreciation of our staff and their duties. And that's the level of conversation we should have been having all along in this process of making up a budget.
But it is hard. Let me tell you, it is hard to make something like that forum when the state says you give a 4% raise across the board, and then insurance turns around and it raises their insurance 7%. So now you tell me, where can we do that?
Well, last year we brought up the possibility of cutting the board budget back then by 20,000, so we could pay a little bit more for students to have money to eat when they're out on the road. And that.
But there again, you need to look at line item. You cannot take something from one line item to pay on the other line item.
Correct. But when you're developing a budget, you can make those allocations. You can make those allocations at the planning stage.
Not when the state tells you where they go. Not when the state tells you where they go.
The state doesn't tell you to put that much money in board travel. That's just outrageous.
That is not, there's no that much money in board travel, I guarantee you that.
There was, and you guys have spent, you yourself have spent.
Well, it may have been in that line item, but we did not spend that.
Yes, you did. And granted, this year you didn't because of the shutting down of the conferences and especially the national conference. So yeah, this would be the exception.
We have never spent the $60,000 that you're saying was in there.
Maybe somewhere between 40 and 55, yes.
I don't think so.
You won't give me the information to tell me otherwise.
You can go get it. You can go right in there and look at it. I told you before, you can go on the webpage and pick up any budget as far back as you want. You can go get it.
Okay.
Or don't you know how? So somebody can tell you how.
Okay. Terry, I'll be meeting at some point again, but I understand your work schedule, and I don't mean to throw you in.
Don't meet with Terry. You don't go in there. You just say I'll go, but you don't go in there. It's like this morning. You said you were going to come with me, but you haven't.
I was there this morning. Okay. Anyway.
Go to the next item. Let's go. Go, Terry.
So, Mr. Mendoza, so I think that based on the presentation, if you would recommend the approval of the budget as presented.
Mr. President, members of the board, the administration recommends that for the 2021 school year, that the board approve the proposed operational budget summary as presented. And we will.
You heard the recommendation. Do you hear a motion?
So move.
Gomez, so move.
Motion by Mr. Gomez, second by Mr. Cordova. Any other questions? Call for a roll call vote. Go ahead, Gabe.
So I have a question. Yeah, so
go ahead.
So I mean, we're basically going to vote on Terry's presentation over the last 10 minutes is what we're going to do. I mean, we haven't had any time to review this. You know, I would like to know if there was any public input, you know, from the budget committee standpoint. Was there public involved in the development of the budget?
Terry, can you answer that, please?
There was before we went into this thing with a virus.
So let me just answer Mr. Holguin. Is that the recommendation by the PED was that because we could not hold public hearings, that as long as we posted the summary the way we're presenting it now is to put it out there on our website, which we did, and did a school reach message to everyone on our calling, and then answer questions that were submitted to budget at cobre.k12.nm.us by Friday. And I received one question, and the question was specific to personnel. And so that was forwarded to Mr. Mendoza. And other than that, we had, we solicited from the parents, and that's all we heard. So at this point, PED says that they will accept that because of the situation, but in answering your question, that's the route that we had to take at this point.
To further answer that question, Gabe, we did have budget committee meetings. There was a couple that Mr. Sepulveda attended early on in the school year, and then he stopped attending them probably after November, after which time the budget committee was just myself and Robert Pedraza. We did have a couple of good meetings. There was some good discussion, but they were kind of like an orientation on the budget rather than the actual substance. At no point did we receive any information on program needs, program attention that had to be addressed in making budget allocations. We did get promised that we would get the salary schedules per school and per unit, and that never occurred. Again, that was a vehicle that could have been used either through most effectively through email. And neither myself nor Mr. Pedraza received any such information. And that's basically, things came to a halt at the end of February.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the answers.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay, call for the vote. Mr. Holguin?
I'm going to say yes.
Mr. Guadiana?
I'm going to say no for the purposes of not having enough information. The supervisory level and the presentation were appreciated, but not substantive on what I would consider our role as a board member to represent the public and the students.
Myself, yes. Mr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Cordova?
Yes.
Motion carries. That moves us to item B on financial.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, members of the board, this is a request for a bar increase for transportation in the amount of $13,000. I'd like to call on Ms. Holguin. Please come forward, please.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, the bar is for a replacement bus for Porter Transportation. The 23,000 is listed as our rents and leases. So it's the depreciatory amount for the bus. And let me think. I didn't have the information at home when I built the bar and gave it to Rini for the agenda, so I'm sorry I didn't attach the information on the bus that was purchased, but it's a 2021. Let's see here. Sorry. model year 2021, the actual manufacturer year is 2019. It's 54 seating. And it's a Thomas Southliner. The purchase price for this was $93,000, and the PED has approved $23,000 for under rent of equipment for the bus. George, do you have anything to add on that bus? You're muted.
On that one, all that is correct, and it is the 454 passenger bus. It's the one that we purchased through Porter's, but it's actually going to be under Tina Montoya, since she is the new contractor on that. Is there any questions on the bus?
None. Go ahead, Mr. Mendoza.
Administration recommends that you approve it as presented, and the amount of the adjustment is $23,403.
You heard the recommendation. Do you hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Cordova, second.
Second, Gomez.
I think Gabe was trying to say something there, but it's kind of broken. Say again, Gabe.
It's gonna second. I was just second, Toy.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you when you say that, Gabe, but then you're gone.
Okay.
Say again.
Okay. No, I was gonna second the motion.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Cordova, second by Mr. Holguin. Any other questions? Call for the vote again. Mr. Holguin.
Yes.
Mr. Guadiana.
Yes.
Myself, yes. Mr. Gomez. Say again, Mr. Gomez.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Cordova.
Yes.
Motion carries. Moves us to superintendent report.
Yes, Mr. President, members of the board, this morning phone call with the superintendents. They said that the main issue that we were talking about, and it's our teachers, the teacher contracts. The Cuddy Law Firm has sent me a paragraph that I'd like to share with the board members at the next board meeting, an addendum to the teacher's contract, because the way the law is right now, we have to include in their contract a 4% raise, because the law calls for it right now. But we're being told that the legislature, on the recommendation of the PED, is going to claw back on that 4%. So that means the teachers will read that, and it'll say subject to the new law that's going to come forth, or the reduction in our SEG that's coming to us. It looks like it's anywhere from 5 to 7% reduction. That means that the teachers, administration, everybody that's on contract, including the superintendent, their salary will be less than what they're making this year. So we need to be upfront with our people, our personnel, and let them know that that's coming. Now, we're asking the superintendents and hopefully the board, with Joe Guillen and stuff will come in with us. And we're saying you're cutting our pay. How about going with NIPSHA and Palms Associates and all those and asking that the insurance company also join us in hopefully cutting down their increase to help our employees, not just in Cobre, but across the state. So what I'm saying, in addition to that, also they're looking at reserves that the district might have. And my position on that, board members, is that we depend on that reserve to be able to fund our federal programs that come through on everything that we have to prepay. If we don't have that cushion or that money there to prepay and ask for reimbursements, it kills us. I mean, we're having to possibly hit our SDG that's payroll. That would be the worst thing we can do if that happens. But even so, we have a balanced budget. Thank you, Terry, and everyone that contributed to that. It's in the black, but no telling what's going to happen after the legislature meets. And we're getting calls from the senators and Howie Morales on what we're thinking. And I just like to be upfront and wish I could paint you a better picture, but that's what we're faced right now going forward. But the legislature, when the session's coming up, the governor hasn't called it, but it is coming. Because all you have to do is just go down and look at the gas prices. And if you're in the Anthony area, Las Cruces, it's down to $1.47 a gallon. Okay, so hard time, and unfortunately, to feel sorry for our community, what happened to Freeport McMoran, going with a shutdown, and so that's what we're faced. We're faced with tough times, but we'll survive. Okay, we're all in it together, so we have to figure it out. The next thing that I need to do is let you know that our next board meeting, again, will be via YouTube, like we're doing it right now. It'll be May 11th at 5 o'clock. Okay? So with that in mind, items for next agenda, Mr. President, members of the board, the only thing I can do right now is, I know Mr. Carrillo's here and he's going to have a lot of his grants that need to be approved by the board. So that'll be under. And this time I'll take it back to you, Mr. Sepulveda, in case you want to ask for agenda items from the board.
I don't have any agenda items for next meeting. Does anybody have any?
Mr. President,
This is Gabe.
special ed,
Go ahead, Frank.
special ed grant. And we need to do something with audit report.
Yes, sir. I'll make sure we put that. Yes, sir. It'll be on there.
Yes.
Can we have something on there that we can talk a little bit about, or when can we talk a little bit about graduation or what the plans are, what's going to happen with our seniors?
We're currently working on that, Mr. Cordova. Thank you for asking. There's a lot, but we're kind of condensing it. There's a lot of ideas. We'll have Ms. Montoya, Ms. Peru, and I are working on some purchase orders to purchase some items that we need. And yes, I think we can have a more of a definite plan for you within 2 weeks. You can come on that. And for your information, my office has received several calls in reference to the diplomas. Those diplomas are already at the high school, and we're also planning on how we could distribute those like in maybe the third, possibly no later in the fourth week of May, have somehow of a presentation or program. Without going any further, we'll have a good full report for you all. And see where
Thank
we're
you.
at into. Okay, and we welcome your suggestions, board members. If you think of anything, because we're getting reports on what Denny's doing and all those people around us.
If you could include
Thank you.
a report
Anything else?
yeah, if you could include a report on facilities in terms of will they be open to the public at some point? What are the restrictions?
We're receiving more definite information on that. I was thinking of proposing that we just go ahead and shut down the buildings for the month of May and half of June, but yet, like here at central office, we still have to continue our meeting payroll and paying our bills. So we're having to run a skeleton crew here. And as soon as there'll be another superintendent's meeting with the secretary this Thursday, we'll have more definite information from the governor's office and see where we're going.
Does that apply to the public areas that people would be interested, like the football field, the track, that kind of stuff?
Well, we're on right now, as of through the 15th, we are supposed to keep them shut down. Yes, sir. And like I said, as soon as I hear anything, I'll certainly keep you all, because my office is getting a lot of pressure from the community wanting to use our facility.
I meant adding that to the agenda.
Sure. Sure.
You're cutting out a lot, Dave. Say again. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, I had a couple of things. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
I can hear you now.
Okay, so one of them was the status of the policy review. We had talked about, having that law firm look at our policies and to start reviewing those. I'd like to hear a status on that.
Okay, get it down.
And then also, I thought we had a standing agenda. I thought we had a standing agenda item for where we were at with the bond money. Any updates on that? So I didn't see it on this agenda. I'd like to hear where we're at with the bond money. And then lastly, and probably most importantly, is I'd like to hear what our plan is as Cobre Consolidated Schools. What we're doing in response to the virus to ensure the safety of our staff and our students, for the upcoming fall semester. I mean, what proactive measures are we going to take? What are we going to do? What's our plan? I'd like to hear some of that.
We'll get it on there, sir. We're getting information. Some of the things that they're asking us to do is impossible and not to open school. Like a good example is they're requiring us at this point, if we open school, to take the temperature of every kid that walks through the door. Okay, and then to make sure every kid washes their hands and everybody has a mask on. Those are things we're discussing even this morning. And then what the principals have to do now is they have to open the building. The principals are going to have to make sure they're keeping their 6-foot distance. They're apart, keeping them separated for lunch. They can't sit together. It is a tremendous undertaking. We're discussing that right now. It's a nightmare. So we'll get you an update on that May board meeting.
No, I do believe it is a nightmare. I'm the same type of scenario with my work. Trying to figure out how to respond to wildfires. in this new scenario with COVID-19. And so it's a challenge. I mean, in some cases we get thousands of people together in a central location, and trying to slow the spread of the virus is something we're trying to figure out as well, which includes checking temperatures and that sort of thing as well. So we could throw our hands up in the air, but I would like to hear what kind of plan we may be coming up with to deal with this as best we can.
So the other, to top it off, we have a lot of bus riders. They want us to secure that they're sitting 6 feet apart on the buses. And they want us to limit the people that can ride buses. They want us to, let's say the high school, divide the 300 kids into possibly 4 or 5 sessions. So we can start early in the morning and still have sessions at night. We could separate them. So, it's going to be a scheduling nightmare, but.
Yeah, and we need to look at what kind of personal protective equipment we're going to need for just about everybody also. So, like you say, it'll be a nightmare.
Let me just share with you, our cafeteria is doing a tremendous job. I mean, we're getting a lot of compliments, a lot of kids being fed, and but we're having trouble keeping up with the face masks that they need, the protective gear. The pet department tells us we're delivering. I don't even know if they delivered it today. They were promised us a lot of masks, a lot of protective gear for our people, but they were supposed to be here Friday. It didn't make it. So I didn't hear from Alma today. See if that came in. Terry issued a purchase order. I don't know if it was last week, to order masks. I can't believe how expensive they are when you get them out there. And if you look at Jose and look at our people here, we're even going with cloth. We're making our own. We're being creative, socks and everything you can imagine to make sure the kids get those.
Okay, well, nice looking, Joyce. Well, anything else? Motion to adjourn. Go ahead.
We could have a session where people could bring up things at the end of the meeting. And I just wanted to say that I'm very impressed with what the teachers are doing to keep our students engaged. The use of technology that's being provided is very effective. And I think that the classrooms actually are much better structured than in live. I think the focus is better addressed, and considering the turnover, everything that went into the planning, rolling that out, I compliment you. I am enthused that the students are not let to be idle. They're very engaged in the classwork. That is really awesome. I appreciate the work that the cafeteria staff are doing and making lunches available to everybody at risk to themselves. I've heard some concerns about pay to them, that they were promised a certain level of pay and that may not have materialized, as well as one particular person not getting paid very much for, yes, this is a comment that I'm bringing up, Frank, but I think it reflects, I think fairly on the circumstances. So I hope that gets addressed and that gets resolved. And please convey the satisfaction to all those that are involved in making sure that the education continues. That's been done very well, and I'm very appreciative of that.
I agree with you on what you're saying, that we need to really compliment everybody on what they're doing. And I want to compliment everybody that logged on to our meeting. It was a learning experience, I think, for everybody. This is the first time in the history of COVID that I know of that we've met this way before. And also, Victor, were there any questions that came in to to the phone number that people were gonna call into?
No, sir, I have not received anything as of yet. I did receive a couple posts on the YouTube channel, and that was just in reference to Mr. Guadiana talking about the budget. But I believe that might have been answered. On another one on the middle school, on the 6th grade thing, and that was addressed as well.
What were the
Okay.
questions? What were the questions, Victor?
Oh, that it was just that you made a good point on the budget. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
There's a comment. Sorry.
Okay.
Mr. President, may I
Okay.
make a comment, please? This is Chair Mendoza. May I make a comment? Victor,
Sure,
are
go
you
ahead.
still, Victor, are you still on?
Yes, sir. I'm still present.
Okay, Victor, I'm thinking about the next meeting coming up in 2 weeks. And I don't need you to answer this right now, but I really need executive session with the board because I'm dealing with personnel issues in terms of the budget that I need to do. Do you think we could be able to accomplish it and limit
yes, sir.
only the board members talking before we open it?
Yes, sir.
Or is it something that we have to run it by our lawyers to get a legal thing? And usually every time we do something on the computers, it goes out all over the place. So I don't know.
We could call and that's it.
Okay, well, just let us know, and then feel free to call Mr. Sepulveda or let him know that it can be done. So hopefully we can get something done for the next one.
Okay, we'll do.
Okay.
It might be
Anything
a
else?
call. Okay. No, sir.
Anything else? Motion to adjourn.
So move.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night.
We adjourn.